Section 1.3. So this is like part 2, if you want to call it part 2. This is the midpoint formula. Let me change this around right here. Thanks for listening. I said hang on to it. We're going to do the second half today. And I said that probably about 30 seconds ago. All right? But thanks for listening. Appreciate it. So this is part 2, we'll call it. Part 2. And this is the midpoint formula. So we're not finding the length of the line this time. We're actually going to find the midpoint, the halfway point. That's what midpoint is. Let's start off really easy. Let's just go in one direction. Kind of what we did yesterday. And we're going to go back to that highway again. All right? Where did we start off? The 20-mile marker. And we want to go to McDonald's, which was at the 50-mile marker. Okay? All right? The M.
The golden arches.
The golden arches. The golden arches. Look. There it is. How's that? All right, so there's McDonald's. It's at the 50-mile marker. Let's listen now. What we want to do now is this. Let's listen, please. Let's do this, actually. Let's put the golden arches right here. And let's say you have a friend. They live over here at the exit 20, and you live over here at exit 50. But you don't want to drive all the way 30 miles to his house, and he doesn't want to drive 30 miles to your house, okay, to meet for lunch. So you decide there's a halfway point. Okay, McDonald's is halfway in between us, so let's go to the McDonald's so we don't have to drive as far. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So we have to figure out what mile marker is the McDonald's at. All right, now this is a fairly... well, I don't know, fairly easy, I guess. I don't know, maybe it's not. If I want to find out which mile marker is halfway in between, then we can do this. You could do it a couple different ways. You could say this. You could go 50 minus 20 is what? 30. What's half of 30? 15. So this person has to drive what? 15 miles this way, and this person has to drive 15 miles this way. So you could do two things. You could take 20 and do what to the 15? Add the 15 to the 20. Or you could take the 50 and do what? Subtract the 15 from the 50. Okay? And you're going to get what? 35. You could do it that way. All right? I'm going to show you another way. And this is the way I want you to do this. Look at that 35. Look at the 20 and look at the 50. Two steps. Two real easy steps. If I can take 20 and 50, what can I do with these two? If I do two steps, what can I do with 20 and 50 to get 35? Okay, I go 50 minus 20 is 30, but that's not going to give me 35. What is that? You got it. Okay, add the two together. Watch this. And you're thinking, add them? How do I get the midpoint if I add them? But watch this. If I add them...
divided by 2 points.
Okay, and divide it by what? 2. It's kind of like taking the average, isn't it? It's kind of like the average of the 2 mile markers.
You want to do it like this.
And so this is the way I want you to do it, I promise you. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to add the 2 endpoints together, divide by 2. Why do we divide by 2? Because we're finding the what? The halfway point or the midpoint, right? So this point halfway
you gotta do it like this.
Is called the midpoint. So write that down. So that's the midpoint. So here's our little formula to find the midpoint. You add up the 2 endpoints and divide by 2. So 70 divided by 2 is 35. That'll work every single time. Because watch, I mentioned this a little bit yesterday. Those were kind of easy numbers. But what if you had some real crazy numbers? What if you had an endpoint here and an endpoint here? And let's say at this point right here was like, I'm just making these numbers up. Negative 70... 8, okay, and this point over here was 154, let's say that. Now that's not near as easy, is it? Just to look at it and decide which one's halfway. But what's our formula? Our midpoint formula, right? I put, this is the midpoint right there. It doesn't matter, okay? If I say it's the midpoint, it's the midpoint, okay? So that's the midpoint right there. So the midpoint, listen please, let's not worry about that other stuff. Okay, it's close enough. We're calling it the midpoint. If I want to find the midpoint, how do we do that? What do we do? What's the numbers I'm going to do? Negative 78 what?
Plus 154.
Plus 154. Right, divided by 2. And that'll give us the midpoint. 2 little steps. You add and you divide by 2. It's really, really simple. Okay, and you add them up. Who's got a calculator on them? Somebody do that for me? I don't have it up yet. Who's got a calculator? Nobody's got a calculator in front of them?
She's getting
Okay. All right. So what you got?
1.
You got 38 altogether. What? Do this. What's 154 minus 78? What's 154 minus 78?
132. 78.
76. Okay. 76. And then what do? You divide that by 2. And what is that divided by 2? 38. Okay. Luke was right. It's 38. All right. So that's the midpoint right there. It's at 38. Pretty simple, isn't it? So even if you had big crazy numbers, you can still find the midpoint very, very easily just by adding the two endpoints and dividing by 2. All right? Now that's just in one direction though, isn't it? What if we had a graph, an x and y axis, and they gave you a couple points?
2, 4, negative 3, 6.
All right, let's use those points. What color do you want? Let's go this pink. Okay, would you say 2, 4?
4, negative 3, 6.
2, 4. All right, so Zeke says 2, 4, and negative 3, 6. All right, so let's plot those on here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now look, I'm doing this right now on a graph, but you don't have to do this on the homeworks. We're going to come up with our own little midpoint formula. All right, that's why I'm doing this. Well, we don't have one for going diagonally though. That's only going in one direction. All right, but it's going to look very close to that. So negative 3 and then 6. We are going to go 4, 5, 6. So right there. So what we want to do here is we want to find the midpoint of that little purple line right there. Now you could kind of guess where it would be. It's probably going to be in here somewhere, right? All right, that looks kind of like the midpoint, but guessing is not a good thing. So we want to find exactly where the middle is. Now, in order to find the middle, watch this. If we can go up and down from this point, what was that? That was 6, right? And this is 4. All right, and this is 2. We'll just put the even ones on there. So if we go down from here to here, what is the midpoint from 6 to 4?
5.
It's 5. And how did you do that? You added them up. 6 plus 4 is 10. Divided by 2 is 5.
Hey,
or I know, I understand that.
Because the next one was 5. Like, he ain't do all that math in his head, like, right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know. Listen to me. I understand. Look, you can just look at it. I got 4 and 6. Everybody can look and see if 5 is the midpoint. I am just trying. Listen to me. I am just trying to emphasize our little formula, right? I'm trying to emphasize our formula because what's our formula say? Take the two endpoints, add them up, divide by 2, and it works, doesn't it? All right, that's all I'm trying to do. I know that you can just look at it and say 5 is the midpoint. I understand that. I'm just trying to show you that our formula actually works. All right, what about going across? So where are we here? We're at negative 3 here, and we're at what? 2 here. So look at this. If I go, I don't know if I can draw a straight line. I can't. I think I went down. Oh, yeah, this goes to 4 anyway, doesn't it? Yeah. So, close. All right, it's supposed to go through the 4.
Oh.
So what's that? So I went from where? From negative 3 to 2. Now you may be able to do that in your head to find halfway between negative 3 and 2, but you may not be able to. If you weren't able to, how can we do that? Take the two endpoints and do what to them? Add them up. So what's negative 3 plus 2?
Negative 1.
Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. But is negative 1 our halfway point? No. Negative what? A half. How'd you get a half? Because you did what? You added them up and you divided by 2, right? So where is our midpoint then? So this halfway, it's at the 5, right? That's midpoint here. And what's the halfway point between here and here? It's negative a half, which would be about right there. Watch this. If I take this over like that, and I take this over, look where it hit. Hit right there. Guess what that point is? That's the midpoint. And what is the midpoint?
Middle.
It's what? It's negative 1/2. And then up how far? To 5. That's right. And that's how you find the midpoint. Now look, you don't have to go through all that stuff. You don't have to draw the thing out and find half of this, and do your little lines. You don't have to go through all this. You can just use a little formula. So here's the formula. Everybody ready? I'm going to write it down. This is our midpoint formula. Let's just do it in blue. I'll put MP for midpoint. The midpoint formula is this. Now it's a point. It's a point, isn't it? Everybody listening? It's a point. So the point is an ordered pair. So how did we find the x, the midpoint of the x part? Well, we took this x and we added it to this x, and then we did what to it? Divided it by 2. So what are we going to call those x's? x1 plus x2. Very good, just like we did on the distance. So x1 plus x2, what? Divided by 2, and that's how we write it. Okay, Devin, you getting all this? Look at this right here. What about the midpoint of the y's? Just y1 plus y2 and divide that by 2. And that's as simple as that. That's your midpoint formula. All right? Remember, it's a point. It's not a length. It's not a distance, is it? It's not just one number. It's a what? Parentheses. It's a point. It's an ordered pair, isn't it? It's a point. It's an ordered pair. So when it asks for the midpoint, your answer has to be an ordered pair. You wouldn't believe how many times people turn stuff in on a quiz or a test, and it says, find the midpoint, and they write square root of 50, or they write just one number, 7, or something like that. That doesn't make sense for a midpoint. A midpoint is a point. It has to be an ordered pair. And I'm sitting here, and I'm trying my best to get you to hear me, what I say. All right? Some of you guys aren't watching me. Some of you guys are looking elsewhere. Some of you guys are sleeping. One is. All right? And you're not going to hear me. Pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm trying to help you out here. This right here is a mid what? Point. A midpoint. It's an ordered pair. So write your answer as an ordered pair when it asks for the midpoint. Okay? What's that?
Shake his head.
You divide by 2 because you're finding halfway in between. 2, 2, or negative 1/2? But the answer is not 2, 2. The answer is negative 1/2, 5. I don't know what you're saying. Okay. All right.
By 2.
All right. Let's do a couple examples. All right. Let's do a couple examples. And I don't have my book open. I'm just teaching this off the cuff. But let's make up a good point here. Let's make up an easy one where they're.
Will they ever have like they already have the line and then you have to find the point?
They might.
You got to find the midpoint.
Yeah. Well, they'll give you a midpoint and they'll give you an outside point, an end point, and you're gonna have to find the other end point. But I don't think they ask for that. Actually, they do. So I will have to show you that. All right, but watch, because that gets a little bit tougher. Let's do this. -3, -1. All right, everybody try this, okay? Go ahead. Find the midpoint. That's what it's asking you to do. Find, I'll just put MP for midpoint. All right? I'll give you the formula, just so you can remember. It's x1. You don't need a ruler, because there's no writing. There's no drawing. You're not drawing this out. You're not graphing it. You're just using the formula. That's what we just spent all that time talking about. All right? Here's the midpoint formula. You don't have to put it on a graph. In fact, I don't want you putting it on a graph. I want you just to use the formula to find the midpoint. All right, let's try this. Here we go. I hope you got an answer. So what we do is we add the x's together. So it's 5 plus -3, and you'll always put it over 2 because it's right. It's 5 plus -3. These are the x's. 5 plus -3. Okay? And then you do the y's. You add the y's up. 3 plus -1 over 2. Well, look, 5 plus -3 is just the same as 5 minus 3. What's 5 minus 3? It's 2, but it's 2 over 2. And this is 3 plus -1, which is, comes out the same, doesn't it? All right, but we don't leave it like that. How do we leave it? 1, 1. And that's your answer. That's your midpoint.
How come the first one where it's 5 plus -3 is -2?
Because the other problem came out to be a negative. This came out to be a positive. Because the bigger number is positive. Right. Bigger number is positive. Okay? All right, let me show you one more thing. Okay. Yeah, it's the worksheet. It's the worksheet. It's page 20. Okay, it's the same worksheet that you have. Okay, you did half of it already. You did the distance formula already. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to do numbers, because I got to show you one more thing, and we kind of ran out of time a little bit today. Let's go. Let's just go up to. Let's go up to 18. Just 13 to 18. Okay. So you're just going 13 to 18. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you how to do 19 to 21. All right, because that's a little bit. It's a little bit more difficult. I want you to get this under your belt a little bit. I want you to understand midpoint first, and then we're going to take it with a little bit more of a twist. So we're just doing 13 to 18 tonight. That's due tomorrow.